Hello and welcome to the Who the Fuck is in the Mirror podcast. I'm Angela Spooner, your host, emotional intelligence guide, trauma-informed coach, yoga instructor, confident, badass single mom of 3 amazing children, and founder of Unabashedly You. This podcast is all about using books, analogies, and metaphors to dive deep into who you really are to yourselves, not just as parents or some fictional version others made you out to be, right? But who the fuck you are. I want you to find your confidently badass, secure version of you that you lost along the way, or maybe you never even had in the first place because you were busy with everyone and everything else. Does that sound about right? So how about we get into the science of why we are a bunch of fucked up individuals who look in the mirror and don't even recognize the person that's staring back. Join me in the best journey you'll ever experience. Why, you may ask? Because it is the journey to transform your self-doubt, insecurity, and overall dysfunctional brain into self-aware, badass confidence and understanding. I hope you're as excited as I am because I cannot wait to get into this.
Welcome to the carnival. Welcome to the carnival.
What's up, everybody? Oh my God, I am so excited to be here right now. Right now, in this moment. Can you feel that? If it's your nerves telling you that you need to fuck this show, don't listen. Your nerves don't even like anything new, okay? But we'll get into all that counterproductive but overprotective nervous system of yours, right? So if you haven't guessed already, this podcast is really down to earth, has a lot of raw emotions. Can't even talk today. And dark humor mixed with some real mind-fucking knowledge. So cussing and lots of bold statements are bound to happen. Just FYI. It's not really meant to validate your feelings. Rather, this was created as a raw, unfiltered, and extremely real regarding what life inside and outside of being a parent while dealing with your screaming subconscious demons is really all about. Sometimes you're going to feel attacked, triggered. Sometimes you're going to want to turn me off. And believe me, I've been there. But I'm not here to say what you want to hear. I'm here to say what you need to hear. So I believe our path is never set. We always have a choice to change our path and recreate it with confidence. So I didn't really create this for anyone to accept me. I did that for literally most of my life. And I hit that point in my life where I asked myself, how's that fucking working out for you, Angela? Is it suiting you? Well, the answer was that I made this podcast. So obviously it wasn't working, right? I listened to my own desires and my own passions for once. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you figure out why your brains are the way they are. Why do we talk about the past as if we're still living it? Why is it so difficult to move on and be ourselves? What even does be yourselves mean? Be myself? What, who the fuck is that, right? Is there really an explanation for our behaviors other than we're just shit shows or fucked up? Do we have the ability to actually rewire our brains where we can live that life we always talk about wishing we had, but never actually believed it could be our reality? Is that something that is really resonating with you? Because that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I am going to get into all of that juicy stuff in this podcast. But just like every story has a beginning, let's talk about my beginning and why I created this podcast for your listening privileges and what brought me on this wild journey. Are you ready? So, my name's Angela, as I already said. I am 36 years old. I am a single mother who has been raising my 3 high needs, beautiful children, mostly on my own. But thankfully, my parents, they help out where they can, right? Because otherwise, I'd probably have lost my mind by now. So I have over 15 years of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse in my past. And that's just part of my fucked up, crazy life, okay? It's a lot. So I give you just like critical moments. That's all I'm going to give you. It shaped who I am today and give you a better understanding of like why I have this podcast and how you can benefit. So like hear me out on this because it's really dark. So if you're especially sensitive to dark humor and traumatizing situations, then maybe this isn't the podcast for you because we will be going over a lot of books on trauma and the effects on the brain. Then we'll be tying it all into our like relationships, such as parents, children, husbands, girlfriends, girlfriends with boyfriends, boyfriends with wives, and the wonderful list of trauma brain situations goes on, right? It's going to be intense. So I just want you to understand that it is going to be fucking intense. Like there's no sugarcoating that. There's no shitting rainbows around here. The shitting rainbows comes after we work on all that other shit, right? So there's 2 reasons why I'm sharing my past. One is because I want you to know that no matter what situation you've been in, you are never too far gone to change and grow and becoming a fucking phoenix rising out of the ashes. There is always hope for your inner chaos. I promise you. After you hear my story, you're going to be like, holy shit, I guess there is hope. If she has hope, then I guess there's got to be some hope for me, right? Yeah, trust me, it's bad. I could say that now, but when I first started, oh God, I was like, I am not the problem. It's not me, right? Trying to pull that out. So, anyways, I digress. The second reason is that I want you to know that I know what it's like to feel completely hopeless, utterly lost, and I can really relate to it. And I want you to reclaim who you are with that confidence and a complete mindset shift, right? It's a process, but I want to be a part of that. I want to help you with that. I was a complete shit show. And every day, my shit show self is a little bit less. It's like little sprinkles here and there, right? Sometimes it's a sprinkle less, sometimes it's exponentially less. So it just depends on how I'm feeling. So if I'm leaning in, if I'm fucking running, like, let's go. I'm just running away from that thing we call growth and change. Putting my running shoes on like Forrest Gump, you know? I use a lot of like movie quotes and stories and stuff. I just think it's so funny and it's so relatable. You know, you're like, oh, I get it. That's how she's running. She just kept running and running. And then one day she just decided to stop running and actually work on growth. Yeah, that was my life. And I do accents sometimes. So if I go into like an English accent, just let it happen. Okay. Just let it happen. So, speaking of my running and shit show self, let's talk about these critical moments in my life now, okay? So, when I was younger, I was molested by my grandfather. I never told my parents because there were 7 of us, and I felt like I was a bother because I was second youngest. And there was such an age gap with all of us that it was kind of like, just don't talk about it. We don't have time for it. They never said that to me, so I don't want you to get that impression. It's something within myself. So I was homeschooled, not many friends until college. I went to a community college and then an HBCU. So for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a historically Black college or university, okay? I just like trying new things. So I was like, one of my best friends was black, and he was like, I'm going to this college. And I was like, everybody's doing it. Let's do it. Let's just try something new, right? So when I went to college, I had never talked about my molestation, right? So I was so out of control with my hormones because I graduated school when I was like 15. And I did 2 years of college at the community college. So I was probably about 17 when I went over there. So hormones are just flying everywhere, right? And I'm just like, word vomit of all the things in my life. And I'm like, let's talk about how I was molested as a child, because that's a good, conversation starter, right? No, Angela, it's fine. Just for the record, I've done a lot of dumb shit over the years, so it's okay. We're going to laugh together a lot about it because I'm totally okay with it because I can hold myself now. But getting back on the subject. So naturally, I buried myself in school. I was always working. I joined a relief program actually to help people in Guyana, South America, post hurricanes, because, in your subconscious, when you've been through trauma, naturally you're like, I don't want to deal with my own shit. So I helped everyone else. Angela, you don't need to deal with your shit. Just help everyone else. That's how you heal. So halfway done with college, I went back home. So I was about 19 and I met with some old friends who got me started drinking and partying, smoking weed, smoking black and milds. Black and milds. Remember when that was so popping? You were so cool if you smoked them. Anyways, I was so dysregulated. I hadn't even kissed a guy at this point, but at 19, I did a lot of first. And let's just say I dived into, and telling a guy, just dive in it. Just dive in it. Exactly. And then I got pregnant. Not by him. A guy after him who was married told me he wasn't married. That wasn't true. So I got pregnant by him at 5 months pregnant, lost the baby to a disease called Meckel-Gruber syndrome. One in every 400,000 people carry it, and both parties have to carry it to give it to their child because, luck was on my side, obviously. So his brain came out of his skull and his lungs never developed. And I had to deliver him like that. And I would never get to watch his first step, He was tough though. He had his heart was beating I told them I wanted to hold him until his heart stopped beating. So it was about 45 minutes before he gave in. The friends that I had at that time, I thought they were like the ride or dies, right? Because I was there for them. So that was one of my issues, right? Is that I was always there for others, but I didn't know how to accept somebody being there for me because I never demanded it, right? So I had the kind of friends that loved to take, but never gave. So they told me that they couldn't come see me in the hospital because it was too hard for them, which, no judgment here. Everybody has their own journey, but I obviously was not very good at picking friends. So that's when I met my ex. After that, I didn't want to feel any feelings, right? He was a drug dealer, which I didn't know at the time because I was very naive. So he was also like super sweet and affectionate. I know some of you ladies can relate, right? At first, it's all fun and games until he would do pills, get drunk, get on cocaine. Then he'd beat me for no reason. I remember pistol whipping me with a gun because I wouldn't give him head in front of his friends, right? So he would even leave me at an addict's house while he would take my car, be gone for days. I wouldn't eat. He'd come back like eating a burger. Do you want half of my burger? And I'm like, oh, he's so chivalrous. Like, what the fuck, Angela? Come on. So just, if this is hard to hear, just imagine like what all the women out there who are currently dealing with this, who have no one to turn to because people felt uncomfortable hearing it. So my life has been rough, but it isn't about our past or what it's done to us, but rather what we choose to do with our future by using our past. So as I'm saying all this stuff, I don't need like a self-pity thing or like you pity me. I don't need any kind of pity. Okay. Because all of these examples and experiences have made me into this phenomenal woman that I am today. So, anyways, eventually, shocker, he went to prison after I went to jail for him a couple times because I was afraid of him. Then I met my ex-husband. Guess what? It's almost here. The 6-week challenge to prioritize you is almost ready for you badass moms. If you're constantly feeling agitated and disconnected, or like you've lost your sexiness and confidence, and normal conversations, they leave you feeling anxious when all you want to do is feel calm, sexy, and confident again, then I have something amazing for you. Whether you're single, married, in a relationship, divorced, you have one child or multiple children, this challenge was meant for you. I have been there. I know what it feels like to look put together on the outside, but inside you feel incredibly lonely and lost. I have created this challenge to help you moms reclaim your confident you. Next week, I will be providing more info, so please stay tuned. I am so fucking excited. Me for, getting pregnant out of wedlock, super religious family. We'll get into all that stuff, but it's just a lot of stuff. So I can't just like all in one, otherwise there wouldn't even be a podcast, right? So I left him multiple times, but the time I finally said enough was enough was right after he almost made me paralyzed from the neck down. And he told our children that he took off work to take care of mommy because she was sick. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my God, well, thank God you got away, right? But it only became worse because after I finished school, after I got divorced, I went back into school to become a nurse. Right after graduation, he couldn't live with the fact that I was doing better for myself, for my family, and for the kids. And so he made up lies about me that I was like having sex in front of the kids, which in and of itself, like who makes up those kind of things, Like hurt people really do hurt people. I am telling you, But he was such a good manipulator. That's why I went back to him so many times. He was so good, and he still is at manipulation, and it's a trauma thing. They get used to it. It's not him, it's his behaviors. He learned it. But the biggest thing is knowing you can't help them, right? Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Kind of like that, right? Not Captain Save-A-Ho. So basically, DCS believed him, took my children from me. And at the time, I was actually being monitored by the nursing board because of all my trauma and because I hadn't started getting any therapy or anything. They were like, well, you haven't gotten any therapy, so you're at risk of like doing something to one of the patients if you get triggered, which at the time I was like, fuck you guys. I passed nursing school and I did all these things. Now that I'm like working on myself and everything, I'm like, oh, I'm the problem. It's me, I'm going to be saying that a lot because it was true. I didn't work on myself, but that's because I was dealing with all this stuff. So anyways, so DCS took the children, gave them to him because they said I was unfit to care for the children due to my trauma and inability to co-parent. So apparently domestic violence wasn't really on the top of their list or learning about it because they said because I dropped the charges that it never happened. And they're like, well, if he abused you, then why'd you drop the charges? That's what we call terror, guys. It's terror. So It's fine. It's super fucking twisted. However, everything happens as it should because they gave them to him, and I had to spend all my savings to buy a house that I was going to buy the house with. I had to use it for 2 different lawyers, fought him, had to put a 3-year voluntary suspension on my nursing license because I couldn't follow their monitoring thing because it was so incredibly like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I was like, I can't follow all this stuff because they wanted me to go to all these meetings and pay for all these services. And I just couldn't afford it while I was trying to fight for my kids. So I had to decide, am I going to take my kids or am I going to take, this career path? And I made the choice. And it's in those moments that, we don't see it until maybe years later, that those are the defining moments for the rest of your life because I won them. The charges were dismissed. Like, I won. I won everything. And everybody told me that it couldn't happen. And I was like, fuck you, it's happening. Everybody was like, well, just focus on your career. No, because my career is nothing if I don't have my children, Guess what? It's almost here. The 6-week challenge to prioritize you is almost ready for you badass moms. If you're constantly feeling agitated and disconnected, or like you've lost your sexiness and confidence, and normal conversations, they leave you feeling anxious when all you want to do is feel calm, sexy, and confident again, then I have something amazing for you. Whether you're single, married, in a relationship, divorced, you have one child or multiple children, this challenge was meant for you. I have been there. I know what it feels like to look put together on the outside, but inside you feel incredibly lonely and lost. I have created this challenge to help you moms reclaim your confident you. Next week, I will be providing more info, so please stay tuned. I am so fucking excited. Okay. So anyways, when I got the kids back, you would think that everything would be right? Like everything's going to be wonderful. Well, the kids were actually telling me in my supervised visits before I got them back that there was abuse going on, and the person supervising would report it, and then the DCS worker would tell me that I was coercing it. Like it was so traumatic for me because I was like, I feel like I'm on fucking crazy pills. And everybody was like, why aren't you on drugs? Like, this is a lot. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of counterproductive, But I thought that just fighting and fighting and fighting was okay. So I kept fighting even after I won them. So I literally won them back, got full custody of them. And after that, my kids had so many issues because of the trauma that they went through. And the years that I went through, right? So they were so emotionally distraught. I just had to focus on the future and building a savings up again while working on their healing. So I had to block out my own past. It worked for a while. There were some games that I played, right? Which was like for about a year, I played these games. I got to sit there and play the woe is me game, and my life is so hard struggle. Everyone else is the problem, numbing with smoking weed, cigarettes, mommy juice. Dark humor was my go-to coping mechanism. I was so good at that one. My boyfriend during that time was on and off with me so many times it could have been a soap opera. Like, you literally knew that it was a toxic situation. He was emotionally unavailable, but it made me think I could fix him because I was so good at fixing everything else, right? But that's what I knew. I knew I could do that. I knew I was great at focusing on everyone else's problems, so I didn't have to focus on my own. I was so good at fixing everybody else my entire fucking life. I was a pro. So after he blocked me, like, I don't know, 10 times, I started dating again. So I would be the biggest, rudest, most sarcastic bitch and say that they were the problem. I honestly, to this day, don't even remember all the names of the men I've dated. I've even had men come up to me and say, hey, remember me? And I'm like, did I meet you during this time frame? And if they say yes, I'm like, so that was my broken era. And I'm sorry, but I have no clue who you are because I was a shit show. How badly did I actually treat you? Sometimes they tell me I was nice, and I'm like, really? Was I nice? And sometimes they say that I was awesome. And then I find out, like, oh, just because you dated this person and it didn't work out because you were emotionally distraught. When you start healing, you don't go backwards and start dating those people again. It's like the worst idea ever, just so you're aware. There's certain situations, obviously, if they're working on themselves, you're working on yourself. So many things, but we will save all that for another time. So what actually made me begin working on myself was my emotionally unavailable ex, that guy. He was trying to heal, and I was going through so much that I was bringing him completely down without even knowing what I was doing. He told me to work on myself and he needed to work on himself. But as a lot of us have done, I thought he for sure didn't really mean that. I just knew he wanted me to fight for him even harder, right? Because that's what I was good at, which led me to be even crueler with everyone else. Because when you bond to someone, trauma bonding, you take it out on every fucking buddy else. I had pushed almost everyone away by my cruelty, my anger, my kids, relationships, friends, family, everyone. My kids were having meltdowns left and right. Cops were being called from their violent behavior. I was flipping out on dates and making people cry, literally making men cry. I decided I would make small changes, right? So I started with listening to podcasts, getting therapy. As I became ready, I quit smoking, which I had to try about 8 times. But this time, I did it under my terms. So I just quit cold turkey and I just decided this was it. I want to make these changes. I thought this was great progress, right? So I did that dance again. Let's do some practice. Let's go back to one of the relationships, right? So enter my emotionally unavailable ex. Again, yes, I know, guys. Again. I even had one of my therapists literally telling me, Angela, stop fucking going back to him. She was kind of a shit show in and of herself. She would ask me, Angela, you're a nurse. How long does cocaine stay in your system? I'm telling you, I have great stories. Anyways, so we reconnected, right? But this time I was like, I could totally have fun with him and not feel triggered, right? Mind you, I didn't even know what triggered was fully by this point. I was like, I'm in therapy. I'm good. No, the fuck you're not. 1 hour a week is not stop it. So I got drunk, naturally, made a remark about the past and went batshit crazy on him because he said he needed space. I was crying that ugly cry. You know the cry, like, please stay with me. I need you. You're my whole world. Then he fucking left. So naturally, I went to his house with anything of his I had in my house and threw it on his doorstep. Smooth move, Angela. Real cool. But here's the thing. I'm so fucking stubborn that sometimes I need a good mental ass beating to catch on to things. And it's so funny how the right help comes when you least expect it. So I had been doing research on dating because researching everything is like my go-to in life. And as I started learning more about all the shit I was doing and wasn't supposed to be doing, my mindset shifted. I began realizing just how beat down and mentally shattered I had become. I decided to take a more aggressive approach and started on a deep down shit journey with shadow work, inner child work, trauma, how it relates to dating, how it relates to relationships, all of it. My biggest struggle was the mental breaking down and building up of my shadow work and inner child work. I would cry all the time for no damn reason. My kids would look at me like, oh my God, it's finally happened. Mom broke. I remember one time I just had this overwhelming feeling of emotions, right? Surface from deep within. And I just sat on my kitchen floor and began bawling my eyes out. My kids were like, Mom, are you okay? Don't cry, Mom. I told them, I was like, no, Mom's fine. I'm just feeling feelings, right? I'm just feeling feelings. Oh, the crying will get better, kids. Easier. And it's healthy to cry. So I'm saying all this, poor kids. I was like, this is mommy. I've needed to do this for a long fucking time. I need to feel these feelings, right? And sometimes you have to have that vulnerability, regardless of who's around you. So I actually hoped this before I actually believed it. Okay. So sometimes you have to just hope for the best and just go for it. So partially in this discovery and healing process, my daughter said the most hateful thing to me about how no one's ever going to love me, right? Because I'm ugly and stupid. And she was rough. And I had a lot of acne as a child. So she was like, and you have acne scars. And I was like, God, who's raising this kid, right? And I cried and cried. And I was like, why are you so mean to me? She's like, because I learned it from you. I was like, oh, fuck. Mind blown. Heart broken. Ego crushed. Dagger to the chest. Oh my God. I'm the problem. It's me. Light bulb moment. Literally everything became clear to me. My kids weren't healing because I had suppressed my healing for so long that I had enough pushed down trauma, inner child, and shadows to iceberg the Titanic again. I was like, well, fuck, I need to make more changes. Like, I need to actually make these changes last, right? I quit vaping so that I could become a calmer parent. Then I quit smoking weed because I wanted to feel my feelings and heal. My job at the time was a saloon girl in a tourist town, and the atmosphere no longer suited my growth with the journey I was on. I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm simply talking about my own journey, okay? So don't let my growth define your growth and what truly makes you happy. I was shamed for being emotional at work, and I was told to start smoking again, even. Earlier that day, I listened to a podcast on my way to work that said, we need to make our tomorrow today. And I remember thinking, Angela, the first step is to take the first step. So when I got to work, I could feel the energy was not where I needed to be. I can't describe it. It was like there was this voice screaming within me as my boss was telling me she didn't know what was wrong with me lately. And all I do is cry, and it suddenly hit me. She said, maybe you need to take the day off and think. And think, right? I told her, no, thanks for making this easier. I quit. Busiest day of the year, Saturday. Just quit. Walked out. Had no idea what I was going to do next. Never done that before. I could technically be a nurse again because the voluntary suspension was up, right? All I needed to show was that my family was doing better, but it still felt so off to me. I broke my foot a week after. I was dancing around a campfire like Sandra Bullock from The Proposal. It's fine. To the window, to the wall. Yeah, that was me. I totally crushed it though. Like my foot. It's fine. So I just sat there crying, and I was like at my lowest of lows, right? And I was like, you know what? I've been through too much shit for me to sit here and just feel sorry for myself. So, what am I going to learn from this and where am I going now? So, when I sat with myself, by myself, I was like, there's no greater power than being at a place in my life where I can sit with myself and feel okay with making the decision and no one else is making it. I knew what I needed to do. I could feel my passion rise every time I would start thinking about it. I wanted to help people, but not like a therapist or a nurse. I wanted to help people with after effects of life. You know, when you finish therapy and you're like, well, now what? You know? Or you just feel like you don't know who you are anymore because you spent so much of your time caring for your kids or in your relationships and you've forgotten how your little sexy outfit used to feel on you, or you don't feel sexy in that outfit anymore. Maybe you look in that mirror and you have no clue who the fuck that person is. You look back and can't figure out where or why you became so out of the loop about your desires, wants, passions, motivations. I became my own BFF. I boldly faced my fears. The voices of all the women who told me they wish they could do what I do and be as bold as me, but they weren't as strong. That was all in my head, right? It made me feel some kind of way. And I was like, it wasn't that I made the decision. It wasn't that I was stronger than them. It was that I made the decision that I didn't want to be that person. Whenever you go through something in your life, you have those decisions. And I made the wrong decisions multiple times thinking they were the right ones, right? But I finally am making my dream my reality today in this moment. And it started with taking the first step. That is what I want for you. I want to see you thrive and hear the singing in your voice when you talk about every step you fucking take. I want to see the fire of your rising phoenix come blinding us out of the ashes. Blind the fuck out of me. We aren't perfect. I know we aren't, right? There's not many people that can relate to my specific journey, but the point is not to compare stories or degrade one person's journey over another, right? The fucking point is that no matter who we are or what we're doing, the need for growth is always going to be needed. Changes are still changes. What may be big for me may be small to others. My son told me he realized he was upset at school the other day and asked the teacher to separate from the class so that he could control his fucking feelings. He didn't say fucking. He's 9. That is so unreal to me that a boy who came from as hard of a past as he did, and 3 years ago, he would hit me and laugh when he'd succeed in hurting me. Now he's able to notice his change, to regulate himself and verbalize it. Not to make this about me, but fuck yeah, Angela, you're doing the damn thing. So as I end this beginning podcast where we took a dive into who I am and why I made this podcast, I want you to know that I want the best for each and every one of you. I want to help you be resilient and resourceful with your mental capabilities and have passion and sunshine glowing from the inside out. We're going to start our journey by diving into the book, The Body Keeps the Score. So excited about it. I will be having guest hosts to share their experiences. I'm so excited to be diving deep and getting real with you all. There is so much more to my journey and past. That is why I created this podcast, because my life is a real life movie. It's amazing, chaotic, and wonderful. I am being completely vulnerable and letting you know all of this to show you that I am completely and utterly invested in you and your growth. I want to see you thrive and learn to be gentle with yourself. I am that phoenix who has risen out of the ashes over and over again, and I know this is my journey to soar above it all. I can't wait for the next episode, and I hope to see you there. Your sister, your brother, dad, mom, friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, literally anyone else there is, invite them. I will see you soon. Thank you for listening, and you guys have a fucking awesome day.